What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today is finally the time that we are going to start working on some cars again and getting away from the yard. So the yard work is starting to slow down and I'm getting back to the roots with the channel and working on a vehicle. So today I'm going to be working on my truck, and I've had these brake lines for probably 8 months sitting in the house and just haven't had the time to really put them on. So today is the day. I've got some extended brake lines from PMF Suspension, and I'm super excited to get these things on because with these 38s, my brakes do not feel as good as they did from the factory. And hopefully with these stainless lines, we'll get some of our braking performance back. So I just want to show you what comes in the kit. So this is everything that comes in the box from PMF. So you got 2 fronts and then 1 back one going from the frame down to the axle. You do have the option, if you want to get the flex lines going from the axle to the rear brake calipers. I chose to go without them just because I'd already replaced them and they are brand new. But these are extended. Since my truck already has a 6-inch lift and I'm planning on going up at least another inch, I went ahead and got the 7 to 9-inch lift kit. So they are going to be a little bit long right now, but that's okay because, like I say, once I raise it up a little bit more, they'll be the perfect size for the truck. So one cool thing I wanted to show you, inside of the rubber covering, it's got a DOT number right here, and it's also got the PMF logo on it. So that's a pretty sweet little touch that they've got on this thing, and it's under the rubber, so it'll be nice and protected. That way you'll always be able to see those numbers if for some reason you ever needed to see them. They do include all your new washers and new brackets to hold the lines in place. And other than that, it's just swapping them out and getting the brakes bled. So with that, we'll get started putting them on. Alright, so now that I got the front end of the truck jacked up, I'm going to go ahead and start on the back lines. I went ahead and took the front wheels off and put jack stands underneath it, but I don't have any more jack stands. So before I take the back wheels off, I'm going to go ahead and get under the truck, swap out that brake line, and then I'll jack it up and take the wheels off. What I'm actually doing is I'm going to be upgrading from a .3 to a .4. So this is just some Prestone synthetic .4 brake fluid. I've already put brake lines on this truck one time, and I went ahead and put .4 in at that time, so I don't need a whole lot to do a whole flush. But if you were going to completely convert from .3 to .4, definitely get the big bottle of this stuff because you're going to need it to fill all the lines and the calipers and everything up with the .4. But before you start bleeding anything or changing your lines out, go ahead and top off your brake fluid up here in the master cylinder. That way you know as you're draining the fluid out, you're not going to have to worry about introducing air bubbles in the system up here, and then you can keep on going from there. So everybody knocks on lifted trucks, but I'll tell you one awesome thing about having your truck lifted is you can sit under here straight up and not have to jack your truck up in order to do some work on it. So what I'm going to show you here is where the brake line comes up or comes down from the frame and enters into your axle. This plate right here is a little just air vent tube, and I already had to replace it because the stock one was too short, and when it flexed out one time it ripped that line. So this is already longer. But the part that we're going to be replacing today is from the metal block here, going up the line and right there into that frame mount. so the back is done and we're getting ready to start on the front. But before I start, I want to show you one thing, and it's a huge reason why I'm going to stainless steel lines. I noticed that when I have my 20 by 10s with my 35 by 1350 tires, it was actually rubbing the brake line a little bit. And what that did was it actually rubbed the entire outer rubber coating off of the brake line. Luckily, all the fibers were still intact inside of the brake line, but it definitely weakens the line. And it's kind of scary because if you have to stop really hard and that pressure blows out of the line, I mean, I would have had no brakes, you know, trying to stop behind somebody. But I want to show you what that looks like. So right there, you can see right there where the tire had rubbed that line. And like I say, it hasn't went all the way through the braided cloth that holds the pressure in the line, but switching to the stainless steel, that's something you'll never have to worry about because the tire's not going to hurt it. But I also need to swap these things out because they're just too short now. With the stock lines, you can definitely run it like with a leveling kit and have no worries with it. It's definitely not going to stretch it too far. But now that I'm up to 6 inches on the front, whenever this thing's drooped all the way out, this line is stretched as far as it'll go. So what I'm going to do is replace the brake line. I also need to replace the rubber hose that goes to the four-wheel drive hub for the vacuum line. And then I also need to remount my ABS sensor wire. So I'm actually going to take this wire and probably move it down to this hole here. And that should give me enough drop that I don't have to worry about that ABS wire being too short either. Now for your standard driving, a lot of that stuff's going to be fine, and it really wasn't that big a deal. But taking it off road and having it flexed all the way out, or when it snows here in the next few months, hopefully, and I drive it up on some snow piles, I'm gonna have it drooped out, and I don't want to have to worry about any of the lines breaking on this thing. Alright, so now that all the brake lines are changed out, what I'm going to do is go around and do a gravity bleed on all the calipers just to get all the fluid down that I can. And then after I see that fluid is dripping pretty consistently out of all 4 brake calipers, I'll go ahead and tighten everything back up and then get my helper inside the truck, and then we'll go ahead and bleed the system. So overall, these lines went on super easy. There was nothing different than changing out a stock line, and they look amazing. So the only different thing I'm going to have to do is figure out how I'm going to mount all the hoses to the brake line itself, because that plastic piece that's on the stock line is mounted solid to it, so there's no way for you to actually reuse it. But I'm going to figure out how to mount that, probably with some zip ties or something, get that out of the way. But I still need to go to O'Reilly's and get me a longer hose for the 4-wheel drive system. But other than that, this job is almost complete. So one other thing I'm going to do before I put the wheels back on is actually reroute the emergency brake cable right here. So stock, this thing is mounted up here right against the top of the frame. So I actually just took this nut, loosened it, took that bracket, moved it down and hooked it into that hole and tightened it back up. Then you just wiggle the brake hose a little bit and it'll actually pull out just a tad. It looks like about a ½ inch or so it came down, but it's not putting it in a bind, it's not squishing it or anything. The hose is still rammed pretty good right up against the frame, but it gives you a ton of extra droop down here, so you don't have to worry about your emergency brake accidentally grabbing whenever you're flexed out. And if I can figure out something with the other brake line, I'll show you that as well, but I know that is definitely going to help. All right, so we just got done putting everything back together and I'm out test driving the truck now. So what I can tell you from swapping these brake lines out is the pedal definitely feels firmer. It doesn't stop any better. You know, some people when they switch to stainless steel brake lines, they expect the vehicle to stop better, and it's just not going to, because you're not actually changing anything on the brakes, but what you're gonna gain from it is just pedal feel. You're not gonna feel the sponginess in the brake pedal like you normally would, and you're not gonna have to put your foot to the floor as hard in order to get the truck to stop. What I noticed here is whenever I hit the brake, I don't have to push my foot so hard. Like before, it felt like I had to shove my foot through the floor to get this thing to stop, and now I just have to. It's weird. It's not like a huge difference, but you can definitely feel that it's more solid. You know, like when you push the brake, it's actually braking. It's not like that delayed reaction where nothing's happening and then all of a sudden you feel it and then you have to slam your foot through the floor to get it to stop. So I'm really happy with these things. Again, the main reason I got them was just for the extra length, because I'll have the lift and I'm planning on lifting it just a little bit more. I needed longer brake lines regardless of what type they were, and these look awesome. They were a great price, but I do plan on doing a lot more to my truck with a lot of their products. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys enjoyed getting back to some vehicles. If you're new to the channel, checking out the brake lines, checking out the truck, be sure to subscribe and hit the like button, because I am going to have a lot more content with the truck coming through the winter, especially since I'm not going to be working on the yard as much. With that, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.